Now let's begin. Spencer Hill watched his daughter twirl across the dance floor, her white dress catching the amber glow of the reception hall lights. 8 years old, and still believed the world was good. Still trusted every smile. He wanted to keep it that way for as long as possible, but standing at a wedding full of Alyssa's family, he knew that window was closing fast. His wife's relatives were everything his own family wasn't. Loud, numerous, and tightly knit in a way that felt more like a stranglehold than support. They'd never fully accepted him in the 12 years since he married Alyssa. He was the outsider who'd stolen their golden girl, the quiet software engineer who didn't drink enough or laugh loud enough at their jokes. Spencer. Alyssa appeared at his elbow, her face flushed from champagne and dancing. Stop hovering. Megan's fine. She's with family. He watched Gerald Dodson, Alyssa's uncle, lean down to say something to Megan near the bar. The girl giggled and nodded. Gerald was 62, owned a chain of auto dealerships across 3 states, and held court at every family gathering like some benevolent king. Everyone loved him. Everyone owed him something. Jobs for nephews, loans for down payments, recommendations that opened doors. I'm just watching, Spencer said. You're being paranoid. Alyssa squeezed his arm. Gerald's been nothing but sweet to her. He gave her that bracelet, remember? The one you said was too expensive. Spencer remembered. He'd also noticed how Gerald always found excuses to touch Megan's hair, her shoulder. How his compliments lingered too long on her appearance. Spencer had mentioned it once, carefully, and Alyssa had shut him down so fast his head spun. That's just how he is. Don't you dare accuse him of anything. So Spencer learned to watch in silence, to position himself between Gerald and Megan whenever possible, to make excuses to leave family events early. But tonight was different. This was Alyssa's cousin's wedding, and there was no escaping early. The reception would run past midnight, and Megan was already yawning between dances. An hour later, Spencer lost sight of Megan. He checked the kids' table, empty. The bathroom hallway, clear. His pulse quickened as he wove through clusters of dancing guests. He found Gerald's wife, Shirley, laughing with bridesmaids. Have you seen Megan? Shirley waved vaguely toward the hall. Gerald took her to get some ginger ale. She said her stomach hurt. Too much cake, probably. Spencer's blood went cold. He pushed through the crowd, ignoring Alyssa calling his name. The reception hall connected to a boutique hotel. Gerald had mentioned booking a suite there, just upstairs, in case anyone needs to rest. Spencer took the elevator to the 3rd floor, the carpeted hallway stretching quiet and empty before him. Room 312. He'd seen the keycard in Gerald's pocket earlier. His hand formed a fist, ready to pound on the door when it opened. Gerald stood there, his tie loosened, face red and sweating. Behind him, Spencer could see Megan's small form slumped on the bed. Spencer. Gerald's voice came out too loud, too defensive. Thank God you're here. Megan wasn't feeling well, so I brought her up to lie down. She just needs. Spencer shoved past him. Megan lay on top of the covers, her white dress wrinkled and pulled askew. Her party shoes were off, placed neatly by the nightstand. She was unconscious, breathing shallow. On the nightstand sat a half-empty glass of what looked like ginger ale. What did you give her? Spencer's voice was deadly quiet as he scooped Megan into his arms. Her head lolled against his shoulder. She smelled wrong, like alcohol and something chemical. Nothing. She had some champagne earlier, must have taken it from a table. Kids do that. She got sick and I was just helping. She's 8 years old and completely unconscious. Spencer's hands shook as he held his daughter. If she took a sip of champagne, she wouldn't be like this. You're being dramatic. She's just sleeping off a stomachache. Ask Shirley, she'll tell you. But Spencer was already moving toward the door. Gerald grabbed his arm. For a moment, they locked eyes, and Spencer saw something flicker in Gerald's face. Not guilt exactly. Calculation. The look of a man deciding which lie to commit to. Think about what you're accusing me of, Gerald said softly. Think about what this will do to your wife. To this family. Over nothing. Kids get sick at weddings all the time. Spencer jerked his arm free and carried Megan to the elevator. Behind him, he could hear Gerald's footsteps, then his voice rising. Nothing happened. You hear me? Nothing happened. The elevator doors closed on Gerald's red face. Spencer looked down at his daughter, at the way her dress had been pulled back up but buttoned wrong. At her tights, twisted. At her slack, drugged face. He knew. Every instinct, Every fear he'd been told to suppress, every warning he'd swallowed for the sake of family peace, it all crystallized into terrible certainty. Alyssa met him in the lobby, her mother and two aunts flanking her like a protective wall. "Spencer, what are you doing?" "Gerald said you completely overreacted. I'm taking her to the emergency room. She has a stomach ache. You're ruining the wedding." Spencer kept walking toward the parking lot. Alyssa hurried after him, her heels clicking on the pavement. Her family followed, a growing crowd of concerned faces and rising voices. "Spencer Hill, you stop right now." Alyssa's mother, Margarita Richmond, pointed a finger at him. Gerald explained everything. "You can't just watch me." Spencer buckled Megan's limp body into the back seat. She didn't wake, didn't stir. That alone terrified him more than anything. Alyssa grabbed the car door. "If you drive away right now, if you embarrass Gerald over nothing." "Over nothing?" Spencer's control finally cracked. "Look at her, Alyssa. Really look at her." Alyssa peered into the back seat. For a second, just a second, Spencer saw doubt cross her face. Then Margarita's hand landed on her daughter's shoulder, and Alyssa's expression hardened. "You're being paranoid. You've always been weird about Gerald. This is just an excuse to." Spencer got in the car and drove. In the rearview mirror, he watched the cluster of family members grow smaller, their shocked faces illuminated by the hotel lights. Alyssa stood among them, not running after him, not choosing their daughter. Choosing them. The ER at St. Catherine's was quiet for a Saturday night. Spencer carried Megan through the automatic doors, her head resting against his chest. A nurse looked up from her station, took one look at the unconscious child, and immediately called for a doctor. "What happened?" The doctor, a woman in her 40s with kind eyes, gestured Spencer into a private room. He laid Megan on the examination table and told the truth. All of it. The uncle, the hotel room, the wrong buttons, the glass of ginger ale. He watched the doctor's face shift from professional concern to something harder. "We need to do a full examination," she said. "A rape kit. Are you comfortable with that?" Spencer's throat tightened, but he nodded. "Do whatever you need to do. I need to know. I need proof." Because he knew what was coming. He knew his wife, her family, their circled wagons. He knew how Gerald's money and influence worked in this town. He needed evidence that couldn't be dismissed, couldn't be explained away. The examination took 90 minutes. Spencer sat in the waiting room, his hands clasped between his knees, staring at the linoleum floor. He'd texted Alyssa the hospital name. She hadn't responded. He'd called twice. Voicemail. Finally, the doctor emerged. Her face told him everything before she spoke. "Mr. Hill, I'm so sorry. The examination confirmed sexual assault. We've collected evidence, documented injuries, and taken blood samples. The tox screen is processing, but based on her symptoms, I suspect she was given a significant dose of a sedative, possibly mixed with alcohol." Spencer's world tilted. He'd known, but hearing it confirmed felt like a physical blow. "She's 8 years old." "I know. I'm so sorry. We've contacted the police. Detective Stuart Lamb is on his way. He specializes in these cases." "Can I see her?" "She's still sedated, but yes." Megan looked so small in the hospital bed, and 4 in her thin arm, monitors beeping softly. Spencer sat beside her and took her hand. It was warm, alive, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something had been stolen from both of them tonight. Her innocence. His ability to protect her. His phone buzzed. "Finally, Alyssa, you're a liar. Gerald would never do that. Mom's lawyer is already involved. You've crossed a line." Spencer stared at the text, reading it 3 times. Then he screenshotted it and saved it to an encrypted folder he'd created years ago, when he first started documenting Gerald's behavior around Megan. The too long hugs. The inappropriate comments. The times he'd shown up at their house unannounced when he knew Spencer was at work. He'd been building a file, hoping he'd never need it. Now he knew he'd need everything he had. Detective Stuart Lamb arrived an hour later, a lean man in his 50s with graying hair and tired eyes that had seen too much. He sat across from Spencer in the consultation room and listened without interrupting as Spencer laid out the evening's events. "The doctor gave me the preliminary results," Lamb said when Spencer finished. "I'm going to be straight with you, Mr. Hill. This is going to be hard. Gerald Dodson is a prominent businessman. He has connections, resources, and from what you've told me, an entire family willing to vouch for him. I have evidence. The rape kit is a start. But his lawyers will argue timing, opportunity, alternative explanations. They'll paint you as a paranoid father with a grudge. They'll destroy your credibility, your marriage, your reputation. Lamb leaned forward. I'm not trying to discourage you. I'm preparing you for the fight ahead. Do you understand? I understand that my daughter was raped, and I'm going to make sure he pays for it. Lamb studied him for a long moment. I believe you. And I believe her. But belief isn't enough. We need to build an airtight case. He pulled out a notepad. Tell me everything you know about Gerald Dodson. Every detail, every suspicion, every incident you've noticed. Spencer talked for 2 hours. He pulled up his encrypted files on his phone, showing Lamb-dated notes, photos, even a video from a Christmas party where Gerald's hand lingered too long on Megan's back. Things Spencer had documented obsessively, compulsively, because something in him had known this day might come. Lamb's expression grew darker as the evidence mounted. This is good. This establishes pattern. But I need more. I need witnesses, other victims, financial trails. Men like Gerald Dodson don't usually stop at one. What are you saying? I'm saying your daughter probably isn't his first. Men who do this, who plan at this carefully, the hotel room ready, the sedatives prepared, they've practiced. We find the others, we build a case he can't buy his way out of. Spencer's phone buzzed again. This time, a call from Alyssa. He answered. You need to come home right now and apologize. Her voice was cold, clipped. Gerald's reputation is destroyed because of your lies. He's talking about suing you for defamation. The family wants you to. Alyssa, the rape kit came back positive. Silence. Then, you're lying. I'm at St. Catherine's Hospital. The doctor confirmed it. The police are here. They're opening an investigation. No, that's impossible. Gerald wouldn't. He's been nothing but good to us. He gave you that job reference when he raped our daughter. More silence. Spencer could hear voices in the background. Margarita's sharp tone, then Gerald's deeper rumble. They were all there, circled together, deciding how to handle this. I don't believe you, Alyssa said finally. And neither does anyone else. You're going to regret this, Spencer. You're going to regret what you've done to this family. She hung up. Spencer looked at Detective Lamb. My wife thinks I'm lying. The family will close ranks. It's what they do. Gerald's already working the phones, I guarantee it. By morning, there'll be a narrative in place. You'll be the unstable outsider who's always resented him, who's using this poor sick child too. She's not sick. She was drugged and raped. I know, and we're going to prove it. But you need to understand something, Mr. Hill. The legal case is only part of this battle. The court of public opinion, family pressure, social warfare. That's where men like Gerald excel. He'll try to isolate you, destroy your support system, make you doubt yourself. Lamb's eyes hardened. You have to be stronger than that. You have to be willing to lose everything except your daughter. Spencer looked through the window at Megan's sleeping form. I already have. The detective nodded slowly. Then let's get to work. I'm going to need you to do something difficult. I need you to go home. Act normal around your wife's family. Keep your ears open. If Gerald's done this before, someone knows. Someone's covering for him, or someone's been paid off, or someone else has suspicions. You find that thread, I'll pull it. You want me to spy on them? I want you to gather intelligence. There's a difference. Lamb stood, handing Spencer a card. My direct line. Call me anytime, day or night. And Mr. Hill, don't do anything stupid. Don't confront Gerald. Don't threaten him. Don't give them ammunition to paint you as unstable. We do this right, by the book, or we don't do it at all. Spencer took the card. By the book. Good. I'm going to request Gerald come in for questioning tomorrow. His lawyers will delay, but it'll put him on notice. In the meantime, keep your daughter safe and watch her back. Megan woke up an hour later, confused and scared. She didn't remember leaving the reception. Didn't remember the hotel room. Didn't remember anything after Uncle Gerald gave her a special fruit punch and said they should go somewhere quiet so her tummy would feel better. Spencer held her while she cried, while she asked why she hurt, why she was in the hospital. He told her the truth as gently as he could, that Uncle Gerald had hurt her, that it wasn't her fault, that she was safe now. She cried harder. But everyone loves Uncle Gerald. He's funny. He gives the best presents. I know, sweetheart. But sometimes people we trust do bad things. And it's never, ever your fault. Does Mommy know? Spencer's throat tightened. Yes. Is she mad at me? No, baby. She's not mad at you. At me, he thought. At me for telling the truth. They kept Megan overnight for observation. Spencer slept in the chair beside her bed, his phone clutched in his hand, waiting for Alyssa to call back. To say she believed him. To say she was coming. The call never came. At 6 a.m., his phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Check your email. Stuart Lamb. Spencer opened his laptop, connecting to the hospital Wi-Fi. The email from Lamb contained a single attachment. A police report from 15 years ago. The victim's name was redacted, but the description was chillingly familiar. 14-year-old girl. Family wedding. Hotel room. Sedatives. Sexual assault. The accused, Gerald Dodson. Case status, dismissed. Victim recanted. Family settled privately. Spencer read it 3 times, his hands shaking. Gerald had done this before. 15 years ago. To another child. And the family had buried it, paid it off, made it disappear. A second email arrived. Found the victim. Cassie Moran. Now 29. Willing to talk. Meet me at Joe's Diner, 9 a.m. Come alone. Spencer looked at his sleeping daughter. The machines monitoring her vitals beeped steadily, proof she was alive, breathing, surviving. But survival wasn't enough. He wanted justice. And if the law couldn't give it to him fast enough, if the family kept protecting their golden boy, if Alyssa kept choosing them over their daughter, then Spencer would find another way. He'd always been a patient man, a watcher, a planner, a solver of complex problems. It's what made him good at his job, writing algorithms that anticipated every variable, planned for every contingency. Gerald Dodson thought he'd gotten away with it. Thought his money and family name made him untouchable. Spencer was going to teach him exactly how wrong he was. Joe's Diner sat on the edge of town, a chrome and neon relic that served the best coffee and worst pancakes in 3 counties. Spencer arrived early, taking a booth in the back corner where he could watch both doors. Detective Lamb had said to come alone, but Spencer's trust was in short supply these days. The hospital had released Megan into his care an hour ago, with instructions for trauma counseling and a follow-up appointment. He dropped her at his brother's house in the next town over, the only family member he trusted completely. Doug Fletcher, 2 years older and a Marine veteran who'd seen enough evil to recognize it instantly. Keep her safe, Spencer had said. Don't tell anyone where you are. Doug had looked at his niece's pale, withdrawn face and nodded. How bad? As bad as it gets. Then go do what you need to do. We'll be ghosts. Now Spencer sat in Joe's Diner, drinking burnt coffee and watching the minutes tick by. At 9:03, Detective Lamb slid into the booth across from him, followed by a woman in her late 20s with hollow eyes and nervous hands. Mr. Hill, this is Cassie Moran, Lamb said. Cassie, this is Spencer Hill. His daughter was assaulted by Gerald Dodson last night. Cassie's hands tightened around her coffee cup. How old? 8. Something crumpled in Cassie's expression. Jesus. I was 14. I thought maybe he'd, I don't know, gotten older. Stop. Tell him what you told me, Lamb said gently. Cassie took a shaky breath. It was my cousin's wedding. The Richmond family, that's my mom's side. Gerald's my great-uncle, technically. He was always everyone's favorite. So generous, so fun. Her voice dripped bitterness. He found me crying at the reception. Teenage drama. Some boy broke my heart. He said he had advice, suggested we go somewhere quiet to talk. His hotel room. Spencer's jaw clenched. The pattern was identical. He gave me champagne. Said it would help me relax, that all the sophisticated girls drank it. I had maybe half a glass and everything went fuzzy. When I woke up, she swallowed hard. He was buttoning his pants. Told me I'd had too much to drink and passed out. That he'd been a gentleman, kept me safe. But my clothes were wrong. And I hurt. I knew something had happened. Did you tell anyone? My mom. She told her sister, who told their mother. And it turned into this whole family meeting where Gerald cried and said I'd misunderstood, that he was just trying to help a heartbroken teenager. And how could I accuse him of something so horrible? Cassie's voice shook. They made me take it back. Said if I pursued charges, it would destroy the family. Gerald's wife Shirley had just been diagnosed with cancer. Did I want to add to their suffering? His business employed half the cousins. Did I want everyone to lose their jobs? So you recanted. I was 14, and everyone I trusted told me I was wrong. That I was remembering wrong. That Gerald was a good man who'd made a mistake getting too friendly with a troubled teen. Tears streaked Cassie's face. They paid for therapy. Private school. A car when I turned 16. My mom said it was Gerald being generous, proving he held no grudges. I knew it was hush money. But you're talking now, Spencer said. Because I've spent 15 years wondering if I was crazy. If I'd imagined it. If I'd ruined a good man's reputation over teenage confusion. She looked directly at Spencer. Then Detective Lamb called and said Gerald did it again. To an 8-year-old. And I knew I should have fought harder. Should have made them believe me. It's not your fault, Lamb said quietly. You were a child being gaslit by adults you trusted. But now you can help us stop him. Cassie nodded. What do you need? Your testimony. Official statement. The settlement agreement, if you still have it. Anything that proves a pattern. My mom kept everything. She'll fight me on this. The whole family will. I know. Lamb glanced at Spencer. They're already circling wagons around Gerald. His lawyer contacted the department this morning, claimed Mr. Hill has a history of paranoid delusions and is coaching his daughter to make false accusations. Spencer's hands fisted. That's bullshit. I know, but they're good at this. They've done it before. Lamb pulled out a folder. I did some digging. That settlement Cassie mentioned? $200,000 paid to her parents by a shell company Gerald controls. The agreement includes a strict NDA and a clause stating if Cassie or her family ever speak about the incident, they forfeit the money and face civil penalties. So she's risking financial ruin by talking to us. Already ruined, Cassie said bitterly. My parents blew through that money in 5 years. Bad investments, gambling, trying to keep up with the rest of the Richmond clan. We're broke. But even if we weren't, I'm done staying quiet. I can't let him do this to another little girl. Spencer studied her across the table. Cassie Moran had been destroyed by Gerald Dodson and her own family's complicity. 15 years later, she was still broken. He could see it in her eyes, in the way she held herself, braced for the next blow. I'm sorry this happened to you, he said. And I promise you, he's going to pay for what he did. To you, to my daughter, to however many others there are. Lamb shifted uncomfortably. Mr. Hill, I need you to let the legal system handle this. We're building a solid case. How long until trial? A year? 2. While Gerald stays free, keeps his business, keeps his reputation. These things take time. He raped my daughter. I'm done waiting. Spencer stood. Cassie, thank you for talking to us. Detective, I'll cooperate fully with your investigation. But I'm also going to do what I do best, which is solve problems. Spencer left the diner, his mind already working through scenarios, variables, solutions. He'd spent 12 years building software that predicted human behavior, identified patterns, exploited vulnerabilities in systems. Gerald Dodson was just another system. And every system had weaknesses. His phone buzzed as he reached his car. Alyssa, come to Mom's house. We need to talk. He drove to the Richmond family estate, a sprawling colonial on 5 acres that Alyssa's grandfather had built with textile money. Cars lined the circular drive. The whole family was here. A tribunal. Margarita answered the door, her face hard. About time. Everyone's waiting. The living room was packed. Alyssa sat on the couch between her mother and 2 aunts. Gerald stood by the fireplace, Shirley at his side. Various cousins and extended family filled the remaining chairs. All eyes turned to Spencer as he entered. Sit down, Spencer, Margarita commanded. I'll stand. Fine. We'll make this quick. She folded her arms. You've made a serious accusation against a respected member of this family based on nothing but paranoia. Gerald has graciously agreed not to press charges for defamation if you issue a public apology and admit you were mistaken. Spencer's gaze moved to Alyssa. She wouldn't meet his eyes. I wasn't mistaken. The hospital confirmed sexual assault. The police are investigating. And it's not the first time Gerald's done this. Gasps rippled through the room. Gerald's face flushed purple. That's a lie. Shirley stepped forward. How dare you bring up ancient history? That girl lied about Gerald, and her family admitted it. After you paid them $200,000 to shut up. The room erupted. Voices overlapped. Accusations flew. Margarita's face went white. Where did you hear? That's confidential. It's true then. Spencer looked at Alyssa. You knew. Your whole family knew Gerald assaulted a 14-year-old, and you buried it. It was complicated. One of the aunts protested. The girl was troubled. She'd been drinking. She was 14 years old, and he drugged her. Just like he drugged Megan. Megan was sick. Alyssa finally spoke, her voice shrill. Gerald was trying to help her, and you twisted it into something sick because you've always hated him. I've always been afraid of him. Because I saw what he is. What you all refused to see. Gerald stepped forward, his voice smooth, controlled. Spencer, I understand you're upset. Megan got sick at the wedding and you panicked. But these accusations are destroying lives. My marriage, my business, your marriage. He gestured to Alyssa. Think about what you're doing to your family. I'm protecting my daughter from a predator. You're destroying your daughter's life. Margarita snapped. Everyone at that wedding knows what you did. The story's already spreading. People are talking. Megan will be branded. Megan was raped. That's not a brand. That's a crime. And the only person who should be ashamed is the man who did it. Spencer pulled out his phone, tapping the screen. I've sent the police report to all of you. Gerald's full history. The previous victim's statement. The settlement agreement. The talk screen from last night showing exactly what drugs were in Megan's system. He looked at each family member in turn. You can keep lying to yourselves, but you can't claim ignorance anymore. Everyone in this room now knows exactly what Gerald is. He turned to leave. Alyssa jumped up, grabbing his arm. If you walk out that door, we're done. I will divorce you. I will fight for custody. You will lose everything. Spencer looked at his wife, at the woman he'd loved for 12 years, who'd given him a daughter, who'd promised to stand beside him through anything. I already lost everything the moment you chose them over Megan. He left. Behind him, the room erupted again, but one voice rose above the others, Gerald's, tight, with barely contained rage. That man just made the biggest mistake of his life. Spencer knew. The Richmonds were a powerful family with deep pockets and deeper connections. They could make his life hell, destroy his career, his reputation, turn the entire community against him. But they'd underestimated one crucial thing. Spencer Hill had nothing left to lose. And a man with nothing to lose was the most dangerous kind. His phone rang as he drove. Detective Lamb, I heard you confronted the family. How? Margarita Richmond called the chief. Claimed you're harassing Gerald, that you need a psychiatric evaluation. The chief wants me to back off the investigation. Can he do that? He can try. I can stall. But Spencer, you need to understand the pressure they're bringing to bear. Gerald's lawyer is already filing motions to suppress the rape kit evidence, claiming improper collection. They're going after your custody of Megan, saying you're unstable. And they've got a PR firm spinning this as a family dispute blown out of proportion by a paranoid father. What are you saying? I'm saying the legal route is going to be a long, ugly fight. And you might lose. Spencer pulled over, hands gripping the steering wheel. Then what do I do? Officially? Trust the system. Cooperate with the investigation. Be patient. And unofficially? A long pause. I've been a cop for 27 years. I've seen men like Gerald Dodson get away with it again and again because they know how to work the system. They have money, lawyers, connections. They destroy their victims' credibility and walk away clean. Another pause. Sometimes the system fails. When it does, I look the other way while good people find their own justice. Are you telling me to break the law, detective? I'm telling you I believe your daughter. I believe Cassie Moran. And I believe Gerald Dodson deserves to pay for what he's done. How that happens? Lamb's voice dropped. I didn't hear anything about plans you might make. And if something were to happen to Gerald Dodson, I'd investigate it the same way I've been investigating this case. Slowly, carefully, with every bureaucratic delay I can manage. You're giving me permission. I'm telling you I won't stand in your way. There's a difference. Lamb hung up. Spencer sat in his parked car, watching traffic flow past. Two paths stretched before him. The legal route, months or years of court battles. Megan traumatized by testimony. Gerald free on bail. The Richmond family's full weight brought against them. Maybe they'd win. Maybe justice would prevail. Or he could do what he did best. Identify the problem. Analyze the variables. Execute the solution. Gerald Dodson had hurt his daughter. Had hurt others. Would hurt more if given the chance. The system couldn't or wouldn't stop him fast enough. So Spencer would. He started the car and drove to a hardware store in the next county, paying cash for items that together meant nothing, but in combination could mean everything. Then to a computer store, where he bought a cheap laptop with cash. Then to a coffee shop with public Wi-Fi, where he created encrypted email accounts under false names. By sunset, Spencer had the skeleton of a plan. It was illegal, dangerous, and if it went wrong, he'd lose everything. His freedom, his daughter, his life. But if it went right, Gerald Dodson would finally face consequences he couldn't buy his way out of. Spencer Hill had spent his entire life being the good guy, the rule follower, the one who played by society's rules even when those rules failed him. Tonight, that man died. In his place rose someone harder. Someone who understood that true justice wasn't found in courtrooms. It was taken. Spencer spent the next 3 days gathering intelligence. He called it research. Detective Lamb would call it stalking. Either way, it was thorough. Gerald maintained a precise routine. Monday through Friday, he arrived at his main dealership at 8 a.m., stayed until noon, then made the rounds of his other locations. He ate lunch at the country club on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Wednesday nights were poker games at a private club downtown. Weekends were for golf and family dinners at the Richmond estate. But Thursday nights, those were different. Spencer confirmed it through careful surveillance. Every Thursday at 9 p.m., Gerald left his house alone, drove to a high-end apartment complex called Riverside Towers, and spent exactly 2 hours in Unit 7B. Spencer had run the lease through public records. The unit was registered to a shell company, the same one that had paid off Cassie Moran's family. Unit 7B was Gerald's secret, his escape, and possibly, if Spencer's suspicions were correct, his hunting ground. On the 4th day of surveillance, Spencer watched a young woman enter Unit 7B at 8:45 p.m. She looked barely 20, nervous, checking over her shoulder. Gerald arrived 15 minutes later. Spencer waited until midnight, then used a lockpick set he'd ordered online to enter the building's parking garage. He planted a GPS tracker under Gerald's Mercedes, then did the same with the young woman's older Honda. He needed to know their patterns, their movements, their lives. The tracker data over the next week told a story. The young woman, identified through her license plate as Letitia Lamb, worked at one of Gerald's dealerships. She visited Unit 7B every Thursday without fail. She'd also made 3 trips to a clinic in the medical district. Spencer hacked the clinic's appointment system, easy, since they used outdated security software, and confirmed his suspicion. Letitia Lamb was 3 months pregnant. He sat back in his chair, staring at the screen. Gerald was sleeping with a 20-year-old employee, had likely coerced her into it using his position of power, and she was pregnant with what Spencer guessed was an unwanted pregnancy that Gerald was managing quietly. Another crime. Another victim. Another piece of the pattern. Spencer compiled everything into a dossier. Photos of Gerald entering Unit 7B, time-stamped GPS data, Letitia's employment records, clinic visits. Then he encrypted it all and stored it in 3 separate cloud accounts. Insurance. His phone rang. "Doug, how's Megan?" Spencer asked immediately. "Quiet. She's drawing a lot. Barely eating. The therapist says it's normal trauma response. But Spence." Doug's voice cracked. "She asked me yesterday if she did something wrong. If that's why Mommy isn't calling." Spencer's chest tightened. "Alyssa still hasn't contacted her. Not once. Your wife's a piece of work. She's not my wife anymore. She just doesn't know it yet. The divorce is going to be ugly. Everything from here is going to be ugly." Spencer closed his laptop. "Keep Megan safe. I'll handle the rest." "What are you planning?" "Better you don't know." "Spencer, I mean it, Doug. If this goes wrong, I need you to have complete deniability. You're taking care of my daughter. That's all you know." Silence. Then, "Be careful, little brother. Megan needs you. That's why I'm doing this." Spencer hung up and pulled up his main file, Operation Accountability. He'd named it clinically, dispassionately, the way he'd name any software project. Inside were 3 interconnected plans, each designed to destroy Gerald Dodson from a different angle. Phase 1, exposure. Release the evidence publicly in a way that couldn't be suppressed or spun by Richmond family PR. Not through normal channels, those could be blocked, but through the internet, through forums and social media, through channels that spread faster than lawyers could issue takedowns. Phase 2, financial ruin. Gerald's empire was built on reputation and credit. Spencer had found the leverage points, loans taken against fraudulent asset valuations, accounting irregularities, tax evasion. It would take 3 anonymous tips to the right agencies to bring the whole structure crumbling down. Phase 3, personal justice. This was the dangerous part. The part that crossed lines Spencer couldn't uncross. But Gerald had to understand what he'd done. Had to experience consequences that terrified him the way he'd terrified an 8-year-old girl. Spencer wouldn't kill him. Death was too easy, too quick. Gerald needed to live with what was coming. Needed to feel hunted, exposed, powerless. Needed to know what it felt like to be the victim. His burner phone buzzed. A text from an encrypted number. Found 2 more. Sisters. 10 years ago. Same family. Same pattern. They'll talk. SL. Stuart Lamb was still digging. Still building the legal case, even as he tacitly approved Spencer's extra-legal one. 2 more victims meant the pattern was undeniable. It also meant Gerald had been doing this for at least 15 years, possibly longer. How many? Spencer wondered. How many children had Gerald hurt? How many families had the Richmonds paid off or intimidated into silence? His phone rang again. This time, a number he didn't recognize. Mr. Hill. A woman's voice, professional but strained. This is Elsa Warren. I'm your wife's attorney. I'm calling to inform you that Mrs. Hill is filing for divorce and requesting full custody of your daughter. We'll be citing your recent erratic behavior and false accusations against a family member as evidence of unfitness. Spencer had expected this. Fine. I'm also calling to offer you a settlement option. If you publicly retract your accusations against Gerald Dodson and agree to a psychiatric evaluation, Mrs. Hill is willing to offer joint custody and a fair division of assets. And if I don't, then we'll pursue full custody and ensure you lose everything. The Richmond family has considerable resources, Mr. Hill. You can't win this fight. Tell Alyssa I'll see her in court. Mr. Hill, please reconsider. Spencer hung up. He'd expected the divorce, the custody battle, the threats. What he hadn't expected was how little he cared. Alyssa had chosen her family over their daughter. That choice revealed who she really was. And Spencer was done mourning the marriage. He had work to do. Phase 1 launched at midnight. Spencer released the evidence through 12 different channels simultaneously. Victim advocacy forums, local news tip lines, social media accounts, even direct emails to journalists who'd covered sexual assault cases before. Each release was anonymous, untraceable, routed through VPNs and encrypted networks. By morning, the story was everywhere. Prominent businessman accused of multiple child sexual assaults. Auto dealer's dark secret. Decades of abuse covered up by wealthy family. Richmond family paid hundreds of thousands to silence victims. Spencer's phone exploded with notifications. News alerts, social media mentions, messages from people he hadn't heard from in years asking if it was true. He ignored them all and watched the chaos spread. The Richmond family's PR firm issued immediate statements denying everything, calling it a coordinated smear campaign. Gerald's lawyers threatened lawsuits. Margarita went on local TV crying about family betrayal and false allegations. But the evidence was too detailed, too specific, too corroborated. Cassie Moran had given an interview to a national network. The 2 newly discovered victims had posted their stories online. Medical records, settlement agreements, witness statements, it all pointed to the same conclusion. Gerald Dodson was a serial predator, and the Richmond family had enabled him for decades. By noon, protesters appeared outside Gerald's dealerships. By evening, 3 major creditors had called their loans. By midnight, Gerald's wife Shirley filed for divorce. Phase 1 was working better than Spencer had hoped. Phase 2 launched 2 days later, once the media firestorm was at its peak. Anonymous tips to the IRS, FBI, and state financial regulators, each carefully documented with evidence Spencer had compiled over weeks of digging through public records and hacked databases. Within hours, federal agents raided Gerald's dealerships. Bank accounts were frozen. Assets seized. The investigation spread to his business partners, his accountants, his whole financial network. Spencer watched from a coffee shop across from the main dealership as agents carried out boxes of records. Gerald stood in the parking lot, surrounded by lawyers, his face a mask of impotent rage. Ruin, Spencer thought. This is what ruin looks like. But it still wasn't enough. Phase 3 required precision. Spencer waited until the following Thursday, when Gerald would normally go to Unit 7B. But Gerald was in no mood for his usual routine. His life was imploding, his business collapsing, his reputation destroyed. So Spencer adjusted the plan. He sent Letitia Lamb an anonymous message with proof of her pregnancy and a simple offer. Cooperate with investigators about Gerald's sexual harassment and get a settlement large enough to start over. Refuse and watch the pregnancy become public, Her reputation destroyed alongside Gerald's. She cooperated within hours, giving a statement to Detective Lamb about years of coercion, unwanted advances, pressure to visit the apartment. More charges, more evidence, more walls closing in. But Spencer wasn't done. On the 15th day after the assault, Spencer arranged a meeting. He'd sent Gerald a message through an encrypted account. I have the missing financial records from the 2019 audit, the ones that prove fraud. Meet me tonight at the old Winston warehouse at 10 p.m. Come alone or they go to the FBI. It was a trap, obviously. But Gerald was desperate, cornered, and Spencer was betting he'd take the chance to eliminate a threat. He was right. Spencer arrived at the warehouse at 9:30, parking 2 blocks away. The building had been abandoned for years, a hollow shell in the industrial district where nobody came after dark. Perfect for what he had planned. He'd spent the previous day setting up cameras in strategic positions, recording devices, and in the center of the main floor, a simple chair under a single hanging work light. Gerald arrived at 10:05, his Mercedes pulling into the lot with headlights off. He got out slowly, looking around, clearly nervous. He was carrying something. Spencer zoomed the camera feed and saw it. A gun. Of course. Gerald had come to kill whoever was blackmailing him. Spencer watched from his hidden position in the upper office as Gerald entered the warehouse. The older man moved carefully, the gun held low but ready. Hello. Gerald's voice echoed in the empty space. I'm here. Where are you? Spencer pressed a button on his remote. The warehouse lights blazed to life, flooding the space with harsh fluorescent brightness. Gerald spun, momentarily blinded, gun rising. Drop it, Spencer's voice came through the speakers he'd installed. You're surrounded by cameras. Everything you do is being recorded and live-streamed. If you shoot anyone, the police will have the evidence instantly. Gerald's head swiveled, searching for Spencer. Where are you? Somewhere you can't reach me. Put the gun down, Gerald. Slowly, Gerald set the weapon on the concrete floor. What do you want? I want you to understand something. I want you to feel what it's like to be powerless, to be trapped, to know that someone more powerful than you is controlling your fate. Spencer. Gerald's face twisted with recognition and rage. You son of a bitch. You did all this. The media, the charges, the financial investigation. You did it to yourself when you raped my daughter. I didn't. Stop lying. Spencer's voice boomed through the speakers. I know about Cassie Moran. About the sisters 10 years ago. About Letitia Lamb and God knows how many others. You're a predator, Gerald. You've been hurting children for decades and hiding behind your money and your family. Gerald's face flushed. You've destroyed everything. My business, my marriage, my reputation. Are you happy now? No. Because you're still free. Still breathing. Still able to hurt people. What do you want from me? Spencer let the silence stretch. I want you to confess. Every victim. Every time. Every detail. The cameras are recording. Your confession will go to the police, the media, the courts. You can't take it back, can't spin it, can't buy your way out. You're insane. I'm a father who will do anything to protect his daughter and make sure you never hurt another child. I won't confess to something I didn't do. Spencer pressed another button. On the screen Gerald couldn't see, video began playing on loop, surveillance footage from the wedding. Gerald leading Megan away, entering the elevator, walking her to room 312. The timeline matched perfectly with when Spencer had found her drugged and assaulted. I have proof, Gerald. Medical evidence. Witness testimony. Financial records of your settlements. And now I have you, on camera, with a gun, meeting someone in an abandoned warehouse. Spencer's voice dropped. You're done. The only choice you have left is whether you maintain your lies while going to prison, or confess and maybe, show a shred of human decency before the end. Gerald stood in the pool of light, trembling. Not with fear, Spencer realized. With fury. You think you've won? Gerald spat. The Richmond family will destroy you. Margarita has already filed motions to have Megan taken from you. Alyssa's lawyer is going to prove you're delusional, paranoid, unfit. Even if I go down, you lose your daughter. Spencer's finger hovered over the final button. That's where you're wrong, Gerald. Megan's already safe. She's with family you can't touch, in a place you'll never find. And as for the custody battle, Spencer smiled, though Gerald couldn't see it. I've documented everything. Every threat your family made. Every attempt to cover up your crimes. Every lawyer who tried to intimidate me or suppress evidence. It's all recorded, time-stamped, backed up in multiple locations. If Alyssa wants to fight for custody, she'll have to explain to a judge why she sided with her daughter's rapist over her daughter. Gerald's shoulders sagged slightly. Spencer could see the calculation happening, the realization that there was no escape, no angle left to play. You haven't won anything, Gerald said quietly. Even if you destroy me, it doesn't undo what happened. Your daughter will carry this trauma forever. Your marriage is over. Your life is ruined. You're right, Spencer said. Nothing I do can fix what you broke. But I can make sure you pay for it. I can make sure everyone knows what you are. And I can sleep at night knowing I did everything in my power to protect my daughter and every other child you might have hurt. I want my lawyer. And you'll get one. Detective Lamb is on his way here now. I called him 20 minutes ago. This whole conversation is recorded. The gun you brought is registered to you. Your presence here proves intent to harm your blackmailer, combined with everything else. Spencer let the implications hang. You set me up. I gave you the rope. You chose to hang yourself. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Gerald looked toward the door, then back at the cameras he couldn't locate. I could still walk out of here. Disappear. You could try, but where would you go? Your accounts are frozen. Your passport has been flagged. Your face is all over the news. You're not a rich, powerful man anymore, Gerald. You're just a criminal. The sirens grew louder. Gerald picked up his gun. For a moment, Spencer thought he might actually try to shoot his way out. But Gerald just looked at the weapon in his hand, then slowly, carefully, placed it back on the ground and stepped away. I didn't mean to hurt anyone, Gerald said quietly, and for the first time, his voice cracked. I couldn't help myself. They were so innocent, so trusting. Spencer's stomach turned. Save it for your trial. Police lights strobed through the warehouse windows. Doors crashed open. Officers flooded in, weapons drawn, shouting commands. Gerald dropped to his knees, hands behind his head, the picture of compliance. Detective Lamb appeared, surveying the scene. He looked up at the cameras, nodded once, then turned to Gerald. Gerald Dodson, you're under arrest for attempted murder, illegal possession of a firearm, and violation of bail conditions. As officers handcuffed Gerald, Lamb continued reading rights. Spencer watched from his hidden position until they'd loaded Gerald into a police car. Then he collected his equipment, wiped down everything he'd touched, and slipped out the back exit. The live stream had worked perfectly. Thousands had watched Gerald arrive with a gun, heard his half-confession, seen him caught red-handed. The Richmond family's lawyers couldn't spin this. The court of public opinion had already convicted him. Phase 3, complete. Spencer drove to Doug's house, where Megan was waiting. She was asleep when he arrived, curled up in a guest bed with her stuffed rabbit. He sat beside her in the dark, watching her breathe, feeling the weight of everything finally catch up to him. He destroyed a man's life, had broken laws, manipulated systems, become something he'd never thought he'd be. And he'd do it all again without hesitation. Because Megan was safe. Because Gerald would never hurt another child. Justice, he'd learned, wasn't always found in courtrooms or police stations. Sometimes it was taken in warehouses at midnight by fathers who refused to let evil hide behind money and family connections. Doug appeared in the doorway. It's all over the news. Gerald Dodson arrested. Attempted murder charges. The whole Richmond family is imploding. Margarita's under investigation for obstruction. 2 of the uncles for conspiracy to cover up crimes. Alyssa's been calling you nonstop. Let her call. You really did it. Took down the whole family. I just exposed what they really are. They took themselves down. Doug sat in the other chair. What now? Spencer looked at his sleeping daughter. Now we heal. However long it takes. And we make sure Megan knows none of this was her fault. That she's loved, protected, safe. And Alyssa? She made her choice. I'm filing for full custody tomorrow, along with restraining orders against the Richmond family. Alyssa can see Megan when she proves she can put our daughter first. That might never happen. Then Megan's better off without her. Spencer's phone buzzed. A text from Detective Lamb. Gerald's lawyer is trying to claim entrapment. Won't stick. We've got him on multiple counts. Plus 4 more victims came forward tonight after the live stream. He's going away for a long time. You should be proud of what you did. Spencer read it twice, then deleted it. Proud wasn't the word. Satisfied, maybe. Or simply resolved. He'd done what needed doing. A second text followed. For the record, I never saw any evidence of illegal surveillance, hacking, or entrapment. My investigation was thorough and by the book. Whatever else happened, I was never there. Good luck with your daughter, Mr. Hill. Spencer smiled faintly. Even the law occasionally knew when to look the other way. He turned off his phone and stretched out on the floor beside Megan's bed. Tomorrow would bring more fights, custody hearings, divorce proceedings, possible criminal investigations into his own actions. The Richmond family wouldn't surrender without trying to take him down with them. But tonight, Megan was safe. Gerald was in custody. And Spencer Hill had learned that sometimes being a good father meant being willing to become the monster that scared away worse monsters. He closed his eyes and, for the first time in weeks, slept without nightmares. 6 weeks later, Spencer sat in a courthouse waiting room, Megan beside him drawing pictures. The custody hearing was scheduled to start in 20 minutes. Across the hall, he could see Alyssa with her new lawyer, her third since the divorce proceedings began. The first two had withdrawn after learning the full scope of Gerald's crimes and the family's cover-up. The Richmond empire had collapsed spectacularly. Gerald's dealerships were in bankruptcy. Margarita faced federal charges for witness tampering. 2 uncles were under investigation for financial crimes. The family that had once seemed untouchable was scattered, broke, and toxic. Alyssa had been staying at a friend's house, cut off from her family for the first time in her life. Spencer had heard through Doug that she was struggling, no job, no money, completely unprepared for life without the Richmond safety net. Part of him felt sorry for her. A very small part. Mr. Hill, a social worker approached, clipboard in hand. I've completed my evaluation. I need to discuss my findings before the hearing. Spencer followed her into a private room. Megan stayed with Doug, carefully coloring inside the lines of her drawing. I've spent the past month observing you with Megan, talking to her therapist, reviewing the evidence. The social worker, Myra Walters, said, Mr. Hill, I want you to know this is one of the most clear-cut cases I've seen. Your daughter feels safe with you. She's begun healing from her trauma. She explicitly stated she doesn't want to live with her mother. Alyssa's claiming I coached her. I know. I disagree. Megan's responses were spontaneous, age-appropriate, and consistent across multiple interviews. She's not parroting coached answers. She's expressing genuine fear that her mother won't believe her or protect her. So what are you recommending? Full custody to you, with supervised visitation for Mrs. Hill contingent on her completing therapy and demonstrating she understands the severity of what happened. Myra leaned forward. Off the record, your ex-wife is still in denial about her uncle's crimes. Until she accepts reality and prioritizes her daughter's well-being, she shouldn't have unsupervised access. Spencer felt something unodd in his chest. Thank you. The hearing itself was brief. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s named Felicia Vance, reviewed the evidence, the social worker's report, and the criminal cases against Gerald and the Richmond family. She asked Megan a few gentle questions in chambers. Did she feel safe with Daddy? Yes. Did she want to see Mommy? Maybe sometimes, but not alone. Judge Vance made her ruling from the bench. Full custody to Mr. Spencer Hill. Mrs. Alyssa Hill is granted supervised visitation twice monthly, contingent on completion of family therapy and written certification from a licensed therapist that she acknowledges the assault of her daughter and demonstrates appropriate protective behaviors. This arrangement will be reviewed in 6 months. The gavel fell. Spencer closed his eyes and felt Megan's small hand slip into his. We can go home now, she whispered. Yes, sweetheart. We can go home. Across the courtroom, Alyssa was crying. Her lawyer was explaining something, but she wasn't listening. She was staring at Spencer and Megan, at the family she'd lost when she chose wrong. Spencer met her eyes and felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, no residual love. Just a vast emptiness where his marriage used to be. He picked up Megan and carried her out of the courthouse, Doug following with their bags. Outside, news cameras waited. The Hill versus Dodson case had become national news, a symbol of powerful men finally facing consequences, of families protecting predators, of brave survivors speaking truth. Spencer ignored the cameras and walked to his car. He'd given one interview, early on, explaining his actions and defending his daughter. That was enough. The rest was just noise. Spencer. He turned. Cassie Moran stood near the courthouse steps, no longer hollow-eyed and broken. She looked stronger now, confident. I wanted to thank you. she said. For believing me. For making them all finally listen. You were brave to come forward. You gave me the courage. You showed me it was possible to fight back and win. She glanced at Megan. How's she doing? Getting better. We both are. Good. That's good. Cassie smiled, a real smile. I'm testifying at Gerald's trial next month. All of us are. They're saying he's going to get 25 to life. Not enough. No. But it's something. It's justice, even if it's late. Spencer nodded. They stood in companionable silence for a moment, two survivors of Gerald Dodson's evil, connected by trauma and the long road to healing. Take care of that little girl, Cassie said finally. Always. 3 months later, Gerald Dodson was convicted on 14 counts of child sexual assault, attempted murder, and financial crimes. The judge sentenced him to 45 years without parole. At 62, it was effectively a life sentence. Spencer didn't attend the sentencing. He was at Megan's school play, watching her perform in a chorus of singing flowers. She still had nightmares sometimes, still startled at loud noises. But she was laughing again, playing with friends, slowly reclaiming her childhood. Therapy helped. The consistency of their new routine helped. Most of all, knowing she was believed, protected, and loved unconditionally, that helped. Alyssa had completed 3 months of therapy and was granted her first supervised visit. She brought Megan a stuffed animal and spent an awkward hour in a visitation room trying to rebuild trust she'd destroyed. Megan was polite but distant. The bond between mother and daughter had been severed, and Spencer didn't know if it could ever be repaired. That was Alyssa's burden to carry. Spencer focused on being the parent Megan needed, steady, present, safe. He'd reduced his work hours, hired a trauma-informed babysitter, found a house in a good school district far from the Richmond family. They were building a new life from the ashes of the old one. One evening, 6 months after Gerald's conviction, Megan came to Spencer with a question. Daddy, why did you fight so hard for me? Even when Mommy and everyone said you were wrong. Spencer pulled her onto his lap, choosing his words carefully. Because you're my daughter. And a father's job is to protect his children, no matter what. Even when it's hard. Even when everyone else says to give up. I will always, always fight for you. Even if it means being mean to people. I wasn't mean, sweetheart. I was doing what was necessary to keep you safe and make sure the person who hurt you faced consequences. Uncle Gerald is in jail forever now. Yes. Good. Megan was quiet for a moment. I'm glad you're my dad. Spencer felt tears prick his eyes. I'm glad you're my daughter. She hugged him tight, and Spencer held her, thinking about how close he'd come to losing her. Not to Gerald's assault, but to the system that protected predators, to the family that chose reputation over truth, to the wife who chose her uncle over their child. He'd become someone he never thought he'd be in the fight to protect Megan. Had broken laws, manipulated systems, orchestrated a man's downfall with surgical precision. Had become, in some ways, as ruthless as the people he was fighting. But he'd kept his daughter safe. And in the end, that was the only thing that mattered. Spencer Hill had learned that being a good father sometimes meant getting your hands dirty. Meant standing alone against everyone who said you were wrong. Meant being willing to sacrifice everything for the one thing that mattered most. He'd made those sacrifices without hesitation. And he'd do it all again in a heartbeat. Outside, the sun set over their quiet neighborhood. Inside, Spencer Hill held his daughter and whispered a promise he intended to keep forever. I've got you, sweetheart. Always. And this time, when she fell asleep in his arms, her face was peaceful. The nightmares were fading. The healing had begun. And Spencer Hill, the quiet software engineer who'd become a one-man wrecking ball of justice, finally allowed himself to believe that maybe, just maybe, they were going to be okay. The war was over. They'd won. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.